Hello, students. Good afternoon. This is Miss Nelson. You should have this paper in front of you that has these three terms at the top, and I am going to introduce you to this FRQ. We'll do the first couple together, and then you will do C, D, and E. By the way, here we are back in Unit 3, and we are still working on understanding experiments and experimental design. So I have a couple of new terms for you. Actually, only one that's truly new. So let's look at these first. The first is factor. Factor is the variable or several variables that is manipulated in an experiment. And then it says often having multiple levels. So a lot of times you can kind of think of the factor as this is our explanatory variable or variables. It's another name for the explanatory variable or variables. Okay. And then we have level. Level means the specific values or conditions of a factor in experiment. So for example, if I'm doing a drug trial and my factor is basically the drug, but maybe I have a few levels of that drug. So maybe I want to give a low dose or a high dose or no dose, and those would be my levels for that factor. Lastly, we have treatment. A treatment is the combination of experimental conditions applied to an experimental unit. So the treatment is the combination of levels that work together to make up that specific treatment. Okay, all three of these are going to make more sense in the context of a problem. So let's go ahead and look at the context that we have for ourselves here. It says, a researcher is studying the effect of light exposure, full or partial, and fertilizer type, organic, synthetic, or none, on plant growth. The researcher has 120 cherry tomato plants available to use for the experiment. Okay, identify the factors and the levels of each factor in the experiment. Okay, so what are our factors? Well, in this case, we have two factors. One is the light exposure. Two is the fertilizer type. So these are the explanatory variables that I am manipulating in this experiment, also known as factors. So one of my factors is light exposure. Okay. So then for light exposure, what are our levels? Well, in this case, it's full or partial. Those are our quote-unquote levels of the factor of light exposure in this experiment. Okay? We have a second factor as well, which is fertilizer type. For this factor, our levels are right here. Whether it's organic, synthetic, or none. Those are our levels. Organic, synthetic, or none. I'm going to make that a little bit better. Or none. Okay? Okay, our factors and our levels. Okay, so now that we have identified our levels and our factors, it says, list all treatments in this experiment. Okay, well, we want to be testing both factors and at all possible levels. So what we need to do is if I have 2 levels of light exposure and 3 levels of fertilizer type, basically what I'm going to end up with is 6 total treatments that are comprised of all possible combinations of these 2 factors. So let's list them. all possible combinations of the two factors. Okay, I could have full light with organic soil. I could have full light with synthetic soil. I could have full light with no fertilizer. Oh, sorry, I meant to say synthetic fertilizer, organic fertilizer, not soil. Okay, so those are through half of my treatments. The other half are going to look like this. I can have partial light with organic fertilizer. I can have partial light with synthetic, and partial light with no fertilizer. And there we go. That's all there is to it. Those are our 6 total treatments. Okay? So all you do, take your levels for both factors or however many factors you have and create every possible combination thereof, and you get your treatments. Okay, that's all for now. You are now going to do C along with D and E on the back. You're going to try those on your own. Okay? So, but goodbye for now.